Hey y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode 18, and I am one of your co-hosts, Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy, and I am back in the great state of Texas after being gone about a week and a half out to northern New Mexico to the Rocky Mountains. But while I was gone, my good buddy Hans held down the fort, and we even managed to sneak in a podcast while I was out there. So Hans, what's going on tonight, bud?
Well, man, the podcast show, I guess, wasn't completely burned down. We didn't get any. I don't think anybody missed a beat. We just
No.
missed your face on the YouTube video, but that was about it. But you know what? The roles have kind of changed because now I'm out of town. I am in right now Medina, Ohio, and I can tell
Mm.
you there are zero hogs in Medina, Ohio.
Oh
Um,
man.
but I'll tell you what there is. There's a bunch of coyote hunters, and I got to talk to some today, and they were talking about the rigs that they use and what they're able to hunt with and what they're not able to hunt with. And I tell you, it's a lot more complicated than where we live as far as the rules, what they can use and what they can't use. But
Hmm.
it was great to get a chance to talk with some of those coyote hunters today. And be every time I go visit new people, it seems like the topic or the conversation always gets turned to some type of hunting or night hunting. So
Sure.
it's always fun. But I'm glad that you're back in Texas, and I'll tell you, it is just as warm up here as it is down there. So I'm
Is
not.
it really?
It
So that's
is.
not, you went north and didn't get cool weather.
It's in the mid 90s right now, and
Whew.
they're on a 3 week, I guess, hot streak, and they're suffering. Actually, I'm going to tell you, school was canceled today for the elementary school because it was too hot. They had no air conditioning in the school
You're
uh,
kidding.
that my buddy his kid goes to, and they
Mm.
canceled school. So can you believe that?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's
that's like I said, we've gone out there to Red River in the Rockies. I've gone there my whole life since I was, before I was born. I was going out there, and just been going forever. And they have definitely mild summers, highs in the 70s and 80s, and so the homes don't have air conditioning.
mm,
And my wife has been out there a bunch. She knows better. I mean, we got married there, and she walks over there to the thermostat one day, and we don't need the air conditioner. We got the doors open. I mean,
yeah.
it's beautiful. And she's messing with it, and she goes, this air conditioner hadn't come on the whole time we're here, and I've messed with this thing, but it's never come on. And I said, that's a heater. They
Oh,
don't have
funny.
air conditioning.
That is
So
funny.
that's
Oh,
a
goodness.
Texas girl though. She doesn't know any difference.
Oh,
So.
absolutely. Well,
Hmm.
today we're going to be talking. A couple weeks ago we did a podcast talking about handheld thermal
To say it
monocular.
again,
I know
three more
exactly.
times fast.
Tripping over
Say it
my tongue.
again.
Uh, Handheld thermal monoculars, and we talked about our experiences using them, why we use them, why it might be beneficial to people out in the field, and some other options for people that are trying to use a handheld and aren't quite ready to purchase one yet, and what they can do with some of the quick detach mounts and stuff like that. But today we are going to dive into one specifically, and we're going to be talking about the brand new Pulsar Helion XQ28. And I know Pulsar has a line of Helions, the handheld thermal monoculars, and there's some confusion as far as the model numbers and how it pertains to each specific Helion. So before we dive into the full review of the Helion XQ28, Jason's going to give a rundown of the different models and a little bit about each one of them.
All right. Yeah, there are. There's a lot of different, pulsar thermal handhelds, and it does get confusing. And so I just want to kind of lay these out real quick. We're going to go over the models. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the model name, the base optical magnification, and the price. And I'm not going to give you what the digital zoom is. They all have digital zoom, but we're going to focus on the important part, and that's just going to be, again, what that base optical magnification is. On the price, they're all ending like 99.97. We're going to just cut that. I'm going to round up 3 cents, and we're just going to go with even numbers, 3,000, 3,300, whatever it is. And just so you hear that and you go, well, that's a different price. It's really not. I'm just rounding up 3 cents to make this easy. So, the quantum lights there's two models. Those are the entry level for the Pulsar thermals. They're, absolutely legitimate thermal handhelds. The image quality is acceptable. They're 384 by 288 resolution, 17 microns. They are focusable. The image quality is not going to compare to some of these Helions that have a larger objective lens and I think focus a little bit better. But you've got two models. You've got the Quantum Light, it's a LITE, and it's the XQ23V, and it's a 1.8 optical, and it's $1,700. Then you've got the Quantum Light XQ30V. It is a 2.5 optical, and it's $1,900. Then moving into the Helion line, this is going to be a totally separate line that's just a step up in quality, image quality, and features. And I'm going to let Hans get into some of those features, but the thing you need to know is it's essentially like the Trail. So it's got all the bells and whistles. And again, Hans will get into those features in just a minute. But originally, up until earlier this summer, the base model of the Helions was the Helion XQ30. It was a 2.5 optical and it was $2,500. The issue was it looked different than the rest of the Helions, and I don't know why. I don't know why they made it this way, but it had a uh, different lens cap. It had a different focus ring, and the image quality, in my opinion, just wasn't on par with the other Helions. And it was just never as popular because of that. And again, I don't really know why, but just the focus adjustment and everything on the front looked odd. And so they actually ended up discontinuing that model and they replaced it with the Helion XQ28, and that's going to be the one we're going to be talking about today. It's only been out a few months, and that model is a 2.3 optical magnification, so it's just almost where that 30 was. It was a 2.5. This is a 2.3, but the nice thing is it's $300 cheaper. It's $2,200, and it has a great image quality. It looks and works just like the rest of the Helions. If you throw it in a sack with them, you can't tell which one it is. And a really great model. So moving on from there, you've got the XQ38, and that's a 3.1 optical magnification, and it is $3,000. Now, I want to point out, I've kind of glossed over this, everything so far, if it says XQ, if it's got a Q in it, it's 384 by 288 resolution. So just remember that. And this is kind of an important factor. The 28, I already told you, is 2200. The 38, which is the next step up now, is $3,000. So you're looking at an $800 difference there. And that's what has really driven the sales on this 28 is because it's such a big jump.
Right.
You've really got to want to spend the extra money to get on up into these other models. Moving up from there, you've got the Helion XQ50. It is a 4.1 optical magnification, and it's $3,300. Then we move into the XP models, and the XP stands for 640 by 480. They're the high resolution models, and you've got the XP28. It's a 1.4 optical, and it's $3,500. You've got the XP38. It's a 1.9 optical, and it's $3,800. And then you have the XP50, and it is a 2.5 optical, and it is $4,000. Now, a couple more things I want to point out about these. A lot of times, if you'll be, if you're looking online, different places, you will see these called sights. And what that is in Europe, where these are manufactured, a lot of times they call what we call a monocular, they call it a sight. And then they call, a scope, a scope. But it gets confusing because people will see these. And I mean, I have talked to people who have called me and they've bought these things somewhere else, maybe from a mass merchant, a box store, didn't know what they were getting. They saw it was called a sight and they thought they were buying a rifle scope,
Oh,
and they're
no.
really just buying a handheld.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I talked to a guy who bought an XP50 and thought he got a deal because he thought he had got it
Oh,
$1,000 off.
oh my
And
gosh.
and even worse than that, and this is a side story, even worse than that, he didn't open the box for 60 days.
Oh,
He went on some big business trip overseas, came back, opened it up. It was past the return policy. He
oh
was
my
stuck
goodness.
with a $4,000 handheld trying to figure out how to mount it on his rifle.
Oh goodness. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it
that's
was.
terrible.
I had to let that guy down. I
Oh,
felt really bad
oh
about
my
that, but
gosh.
he did buy a Trail XP50 from me, so he ended up getting what he wanted. But
Right.
he had, yeah, he had a little extra money in it. So one more thing on these though, what you will see on all of the XQ models is at the end of it they'll have the letter F. And so it's, again, this is like the XQ28F. All of them have the F in the XQs. And that means that the lens is fixed on there. On the XP models, you can press a little button and kind of push and twist, and the lens will actually come off. And what that allows you to do is you can buy a different lens from Pulsar, put it on there, and change the magnification. Uh, to be honest with you, I don't really see the point in it. I mean,
Hmm.
buy the magnification you want,
Right.
but again, I guess if you were, say, going on a big trip and maybe you had the XP28 and you really wanted the magnification of one of the higher models, you could do it, but you're going to pay between, $500 and $900 to get one of those lenses, depending on which one you buy. So again, if you want one, I'll get you one. But it's
Right.
not a common thing that we sell many of. But just so you know, people see the F on the end of those XQs, and a lot of people think that it means fixed focus. It doesn't. It means that the lens is fixed and can't be removed.
Right.
But it is a focusable lens.
Right.
So don't let that worry you at all. So
That's
anyway,
great.
that's my rundown on the different
Yeah,
handhelds.
good job. That's a lot to go through. There's a lot of there's a lot of different choices for anybody that's looking for,
There are.
yeah, any type of base magnification and resolution. There's lots of choices. But real quick, I'm going to go through the specs of the Helion that we're specifically talking about today, and that's the Helion XQ28F, like Jason said, and like he said, when you see the Q, that means you're going to get the 384 by 288 thermal core resolution on the scope. It's a base optical of 2.3, so that's the magnification. It starts out on a 2.3, and that goes up to a 9.2. So it goes from 2.3 base magnification up to a 9.2. It's 17 microns. It does have the internal video recorder with sound, which Jason, you and I use a lot on these Helions to get the third person video from behind when you're shooting a hog. It makes for a great presentation and a great video, to spliced together with some other things. It also has the rechargeable battery pack, which is great. And what's good about the rechargeable battery pack is that battery is interchangeable to my Pulsar XP50 that I'm using. So I
Mhm.
can switch those batteries back and forth and use them, and they go both and fit the same and work the same. They the Helion XQ28 has a focusable objective lens and also the eyepiece diopter, so you can focus those two. And like Jason said, the price is $2,200. So I have all those written down, Jason. I don't know if I missed anything. I don't think I did, but those
No,
are
the one thing the Helions do have that the Trails don't have is they have 8 color palettes in there. So you
yes,
can, it's again, Hans is probably going to agree with this. I'm just making an assumption, but black hot, white hot is
right.
all I really use. But they do have like a sepia, kind of a
Uh
red
huh.
tint. There's multiple. So if you do like any of those, they're in there. They're not in any of the other Pulsar rifle
Right.
scopes, but
Right.
they
That's
are in
that's a
some.
great point, and that is true. They're that's specific to the Helions, and I've looked at all of them. I played with all of them, and like you said, I use white hot a lot to just kind of scan and see if I can find
Mhm,
something. And sometimes I'll switch over to black hot depending on the weather conditions. Sometimes the black hot
mhm.
looks better on a really humid night, but majority of the time it's just in white hot. So, but that's a rundown of the features and specs of the newest Helion. And we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences in the field with it. And I know Jason, you've had it first, and you've got a chance to use it some. So
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, when that XQ28 came out, I'll just be honest about this. It was an accident that I even knew about it. They had it in the catalog at SHOT Show in January, and they didn't have them there. Nobody mentioned them. I didn't even notice it until like March. And I was looking at the catalog and I was like, what is this XQ28? And so I called my Pulsar rep and I said, what is this? He was like, oh yeah, I don't know. He said, if we're really going to get them, they're supposed to discontinue the 30, but we don't know. And okay, you know, who knows? And then randomly we were on the phone one day. Again, I don't know if this was June, whenever it was, and we were just kind of shooting the bull. And he said, "Well, I got some of those new Helion XQ28s coming in, and they're only going to be 21.99." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "Man, I may need to get on the list." I said, "I didn't know they were coming." I said, "I guess put a couple on back order for me." He's like, "Oh man," he said, "we got like 25 of them coming in." He said, "I think I've only got 3 or 4 sold." He's like, "Nobody knows they're
Oh,
coming."
yeah, exactly.
And I was like, "Shoot, sign me up." And so I had one hot off the press, and I was just really impressed with it, and I really liked it. And I said, "Hey, I can sell these things." I
Yeah.
mean, just because of the price and the image quality. But I tell you one thing that I really like about the Helions, and I think this is a real selling point to anybody who already has a trail. If you have a trail and you want to get a Helion, the button configuration is identical. So all the buttons do the exact same thing in the exact same places. So if you've got one, then you're going to be fine if you get the other. So for instance, I know just from using a trail so much, just muscle memory, where those buttons are and what they do. And if you pick up a Helion, it's the exact same thing. The only thing that's different is that the power button on a Helion is out front towards the lens, whereas on a trail it's over on the side.
Man,
Minor detail.
I thought I was going to catch you because I was going to let you get through all that, and then I was going to say,
No,
yeah, but the power button's in a different
yeah,
spot.
that's the only
Dang
one, the
it!
only one. But
Dang it!
yeah, I know. There'll be something else I'll screw up on in a minute. But everything else, and again, that power button's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the button configuration is the same. So to me, it is uh, that's brilliant.
Hmm.
Because once you learn one thing and you use it very much, that muscle memory's there. And so
Right.
when I lay one down and pick the other up, I don't even think about it. I mean, I'm just boom, there's the buttons, boom, I'm changing. And so anyway, I really think that was a wise idea. One thing that I will say is when you're talking about the size, that the Helions are slightly smaller in diameter, so they fit your hand a little bit better. The
Hmm.
trails are bigger around, and if you took the mount off and you tried to palm it and hold it, you can, but it's just a bulky in your hand. The Helions just fit like a glove in your hand. But
Hmm.
this 28, I really like. I like it because of the cost and what you're getting for that. Again, I think the image quality is better. I don't think, I know. It's better than the Quantum Lights. Nothing wrong with those at all. For the money, they're great. If you're willing to spend a little bit more to get the image quality and to get some of those features, I would definitely suggest it. And for me, the 2.3 optical is plenty. I mean, my personal Helion is an XP28 and it's a 1.4.
Hmm.
There's times that I wish it was more than 1.4 for spotting, especially when you get out there to that 400 or 500 yard range. But and I'll just tell you right now, the reason that I'm using the XP and specifically the XP28 is really for one reason. It's not that I need the 640 for my spotting, but it looks really good when I'm using it in third person. Like set it on a tripod, hit record, walk forward. If there's a group of guys or just myself, and we're recording in third person with it, it looks good because it's 640,
Hmm.
and the 1.4 is a very wide field of view, which is what you want. Because even at that, I somehow always manage to walk to the left or right out of the
Yeah.
field of view,
Yeah.
and you can see the hog, but you don't see me up there shooting him. So just to being honest with you, that's the reason I'm using that. If I wasn't in this business doing this, I would probably not own that one. And I really, for the money, I think I'd own this XQ28. I think it's just a bang up thermal handheld for the dollars and cents. I want to compare this kind of quickly to the quantum lights because that's what it's going to get compared to just because of the price. I mean, it's 2200 and the
Hmm.
quantum lights are 1700 and 1900 respectively. And I've had guys say, is it worth it? Yes, if you if you've got the money to spend, you don't mind spending the extra dollars, it's worth it. If you need any of the features like the video recording or the Wi-Fi streaming or any of that, it is worth it
Hmm.
for the upgrade. But I'm a lover of these quantum lights too. I used the $1,700 XQ23V for 6 months right alongside my Trail XP50 as my main handheld, and I loved it. The only reason I sold it is because I found somebody who wanted it, more than I did. They were out of stock.
Yeah.
Pulsar didn't have them. It was my last one, and this guy was begging for one for a hunt, and so I sold it to him. But that's when I ended up getting this Helion. But shoot, I really liked it. The one thing that I do really, really like is this rechargeable battery
Right.
pack.
Yep.
I just think compared to the double A's that the quantum lights use, I kind of got tired of going through those. You can get the Pulsar rechargeable D and V battery packs for those,
Hmm.
and I think that's a worthy upgrade if you're going to go with one of the quantum lights. But
Right.
for the money, this 28 has been very popular. I'll say this, speaking to its popularity, in the what we're in September now, so 2-3 months that it's been out, I have sold more Helion XQ28s than I have every other Helion model combined since they were released in January of 2017. I mean, it's just been selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, it's a great
And
deal.
it is. And
Yeah.
people see it. And that's what's happened. I had a lot of guys will get it and their buddy sees it and they call and go, okay, you convinced me I need one. So, but look, I know you've got the 28. You've been using
Yeah.
it for, shoot, a while now. I don't know, a couple
Yeah.
months, whatever it is. I mean, what do you think about it?
I was trying to think how long I've had it, and I think it has been a couple months. But that talking about buddies seeing what their other buddies got and that peer pressure, that kind of I think we all become victims of that at some point. But yeah, I've had the
Yeah,
Helion for a couple months now, the XQ28, and I'm going to tell you, it's man, I dare somebody to try to take that thing away from me at this point. It has become my crutch because I carry it. I carry it more than I even carry my rifle sometimes because I'll even take it
sure.
on. We went camping a couple weeks ago, and I took my Helion with us just to
Hmm.
look around in the woods just to see what was out there. But I am I'm really impressed just by everything that you talked about with the quality. I love the fact, like you said, it's a trail, and everything is very similar, almost identical as far as button layout, the functions of it. It's when I use Trail XP50 as my main rifle scope, and to go from that and switching back and forth, scanning with the Helion to going over to my rifle scope, it's just easy. It's there, you don't even have to think about it. Like you said, your muscle memories, it's trained in you. So the buttons and everything, it's very easy to use, very similar, like you said, to your rifle scopes. The quality of the image is very good. The 384 by 288 resolution looks great. I do a lot of recording with it. I do third person recording, like Jason said. What's nice, it's got the screw underneath that it'll mount
Hmm.
to a tripod. So I don't know if everybody knows that, but you can mount the Helion to a tripod and set it off to the side while you take a shot. So it does make it easier to do that. But as far as IDing, when I'm looking at hogs or coyotes, on a good night, and I've taken it out and I've looked as far as 500 and 600 yards, and at 500 and 600 yards, you can definitely see if there's a hog or a deer out there. It's kind of hard to tell at that distance exactly what it is, so I'll pull my rifle scope out and to get a little bit better look. But as far as what the IDing range is, I'm going to say, I don't know. What do you think, Jason? I'm thinking about 200 to 300 yards.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think that's pretty easy. I didn't want to say I wanted to, and I specifically didn't say because I wanted to see what you said. I know you'd been using it, uh, you know, for the last couple of
yeah,
months, and so I wanted to see what. Yeah, I think that 200 to 300 yards, and I think it's like any thermal. I always say that there's times that I can tell something is not a hog.
Yeah.
I can tell that, oh, that looks like a deer. I see a
Right.
big long neck. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's not a hog, or that could be a calf. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but it's not a. So sometimes I'll look and go, I think that's a hog at 400 yards, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. Sometimes the process of elimination is easier. I'm not going to shoot that far. To me, the goal is to be able to spot those animals. I want to know for sure within a couple hundred yards what
Yeah.
it is. But those longer, way out there, I don't mind getting my rifle out at that
Yeah.
point. It's not a big deal. I just
Yeah.
don't want to be swinging my rifle around all night long.
Holding it up. Yeah. So, you know, and like you said, you can definitely tell something's out there at 400 or 500 yards. And you and I hog hunt a lot. There's a lot of people out here that hog hunt a lot. You can kind of tell the way that the animal is moving, if it's a hog or a deer. So you kind of know, but to make for sure, you're going to pull out your rifle scope. But the ID range, it's been where we hunt, it's been real humid lately. So it'll
Mhm.
get better, I think, as the humidity goes down, it gets a little cooler outside. But, I'm very safe at saying that, that 300-yard ID range, just to make definitively sure it is, what you're shooting at,
Okay, I'm going
is.
to ask you a question. Hang
Mhm.
on, I'm gonna butt in here. So, and now you're gonna have to think back because I know it's been several months since you had it.
Right.
But Trail XQ28, all right, that was your main rifle scope along for a long time. Do you think that the Trail XQ38 has it's a 2.2,
Mhm.
2.1, 2.2 optical. Do you think it has a longer identification range than the Helion XQ28,
Man, that's a
or
good
about the
question.
same?
A buddy of mine just got an XQ 38 trail that he's been hunting with. So I've been looking through his a lot too, because we've been
Okay.
hunting together.
You're cheating. You're
I'm
supposed to
cheating.
go from memory. That's
I
just
am
not
cheating.
fair.
I would say they're very close.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think the ID range is very, very close. And, that's just from looking through his and comparing it to mine, because I was curious about that. What's it going to
Yeah.
look like? And yeah, I would say it's really close. Obviously the picture image is very close, obviously, because it's the same resolution scope.
Yeah.
But
Hans, I want to say one thing here. I want to make sure that our listeners are clear on what we're talking about.
yeah,
We are talking about the identification range,
right.
not the detection range.
That's a
And
good
that's
point.
something that a lot of people, I mean, even me in just normal conversation, you can just, kind of miss what, think you hear detection versus ID, but a lot of people
Right.
get confused and they go, what's the difference? Well, it's exactly what it sounds. Detecting that there is an animal there
Yeah.
versus IDing.
Being able to ID.
Pulsar says officially that the detection range is 875 yards on this unit, and I absolutely
Hmm.
believe there's no
Yeah.
question. I think that's under. I think you can detect something out there that far. You will not ID it,
No.
but you will definitely know that there's something out there. I mean, a larger animal at that kind of range. So I just
Yeah.
want to be clear what we were talking
And,
about.
and that's a good point, because I was speaking with somebody tonight, and those terms kind of get used interchangeably, and they shouldn't be, because
They
it's
should not.
they're completely different. But the the detection range, I was using the Helion XQ28, and detecting animals at 700 yards, which was the far corner on a tree line. So that's as far as I could see
Mhm.
without hitting
Right.
trees, and I was able to detect something out there. But yeah, the ID range, I'm pretty comfortable with that number of up to about 300 to be safe. And we're a little bit more cautious than most. But I'm never going
We
to take a
are.
shot that far. Uh,
No.
you know, we're going to get a lot closer than that. But that's the experiences. Having, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about having a handheld unit, and me having the Helion. It has helped me uh, kill more hogs and coyotes. And people are
Mhm.
going to say, well, how has it helped you kill more hogs and coyotes? And I'm going to tell you, my Helion is turned on, powered on 10 times more than my rifle scope is.
At least
Yeah,
10
at
times
least.
more.
And I've always got it turned on when I'm walking, when I'm going down a trail. I killed 2 hogs last week walking down a trail that I saw thick in the woods, that I never would have even tried to look for before, because I wouldn't have my rifle scope on. I would just walk the trail and go right to my spot where I'm going to hunt. But because
Right.
I had that Helion turned on, I was able to see those hogs going through the woods, and I was able to take a good shot and drop both of them. So,
Mhm.
uh, the Helion is a tool that I don't think that I don't see how I was able to do it without it, but I know definitely now it's helping me kill more hogs. And the fact that it is a trail unit and it's comparable in use and function to my scope, my rifle scope, makes it an even more important tool that I have access to, that I can use. And like I said, with recording video, internal video recorder, it's awesome. There's nothing better than recording first person a hog kill or coyote kill through your scope, and then having the
Right.
Helion behind you recording the action from behind, where it shows you shooting in full screen and the hog or coyote dropping. So it just makes for a great presentation. But I love, we were talking about the prices and the breakdowns of each of the Helion. That's just such a great deal, man. $2,200.
It
And like you
is.
said, the second step up was a pretty significant step. But
It's 3 grand, so
yeah,
it's $800 more, and you're going from a 2.3 to a 3.1 power. So
and there
now,
has.
look, I know we're going to hear this, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll address it. You $2,200, man, it's a heck of a deal. Guys are out there going, you're smoking crack. I mean, that's $2,200.
Yeah.
It is. It's a lot of money. I understand that. We talked about that when we talked on our the show. We talked just about handheld monoculars. It is a lot of money, and I understand not everybody can afford it, but if you're out there and you're doing this all the time, it's if you can afford it, it's
Mm-hmm.
worth it.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is. If you can't, hey, no problem. I'm no, Hans and I are going to knock it. Not at all. But if you can't afford it, there is no question
Well,
it is justifiable
yeah.
because, and I'm just talking about again monoculars in general, but in $2,200, again, I know there's guys going, this is not cheap. It's cheap for
Yeah.
what this thing does and the image quality compared to, let's not forget that 5 years ago everything was 5 grand and it
Right.
wasn't this good. I
Well,
mean,
for
so there's
people
a
that,
lot there.
yeah, for people that are in the market for a handheld unit, this is an inexpensive price. And for
Yes.
people that are in the market for it, now, what I've seen, seeing an increase of what I've noticed in talking to people, it seems like now there are more people that are buying rifle scopes, thermal scopes, or even digital night vision and handhelds at the same time. I've talked to several people; they're buying or looking at buying both at the same time because they've heard from and they've talked to their buddies and they know how important it is to have both. That's not always an option because of the price.
Sure.
It's a lot of money, but I think the popularity of all the handheld units are going to continue to increase, and I think because of the Helion XQ28 really hasn't been talked about a lot. Like you said, Pulsar, it just kind of came out under the radar, but I really think the sales of those, and you've already seen it, are going to really explode, and it's going to be a top seller. So for anybody that is looking for a great thermal handheld unit, you really need to take a look at that Helion XQ28. You can contact Jason over at Outdoor Legacy Gear. He takes the time and talk to you about all of them. I think he enjoys talking about this kind of stuff more than he does doing anything else that I've seen, because you're always
Yeah,
doing it. But you
yeah,
can
I better enjoy it or
yeah,
I'd go nuts.
yeah. But you can give him a shout over at 877-350-1818. Talk, he'll answer your questions about anything you want to talk about. But really the Helion and what we're talking about today. If you're looking for something, definitely check into it, research it, call Jason. You can contact the show. But also, hey, Jason, before we wrap this up, I want to let everybody know too, with contacting the show, we've always told you, we want you to call in, send in, call us the number, and we'd like to hear your voice, leave a comment, show topics, anything about the show that you can leave on our voicemail. It's 903-833-4461. But I also want to invite everybody, you can text us at that number, and we'd love for you to text us your hog or coyote varmint hunting pictures, and also any video you have, and any of that kind of stuff that we get. There's a chance that we're going to share it on social media, whether it be our Late Night Vision Show Instagram page or our Facebook page. So I want to invite everybody to text those photos to us at 903-833-4461, and we'd love to see them. And we want to,
Yeah.
and call the show too, because we love to do our listener feedback shows, and I've gotten more great comments and topics from people, and it really helps us because we want to deliver the information and the things that you're interested in, and the way that we
Yeah.
know that is to hear that from you directly.
I want to
Uh,
say one thing about that
yeah,
that number real quick. Yeah, absolutely. Just like Hans was saying, text us over, your pictures or your videos, and if you want us to tag you, on Instagram or Facebook, just let us know what your Instagram name, username, whatever is, and we'll try to get you tagged in that. We won't use your real name, anything, but I do want to say uh, that's not the best way to communicate with us
mm,
if you want to ask questions,
right,
because uh, the way we're getting these texts, they're not going directly to our phone. We're not monitoring this. Just like if you call that number, it goes straight to a voicemail. So these are something that we're getting in an inbox. So if you have questions, we're fine with you emailing us. If you want to call in and leave the question for us to answer on the air, but if you just have questions about scopes and that sort of thing, uh, call me on that 877-350-1818. That's my business line. But I just wanted to say we can't handle a bunch of text of you asking questions on there. We just don't have the means of easily replying to those
right.
texts. So I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
you're clear on that.
yeah, absolutely. And why don't you go ahead and give your social media stuff?
Yeah. Well, you can find me on outdoorlegacygear.com. That's the most important place. That's where all the scopes and everything are. You can do your research there. You can call me and I'll answer any of those questions. We've already given that number. You can, if you would prefer to email me, you can go to outdoorlegacygear.com. There's a contact us. You just fill out the contact info and it will go directly to me. And I'll be glad to, reply to you and answer you there and talk on the phone if you prefer that. Also, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can just search for Outdoor Legacy or Outdoor Legacy Gear. You'll find me on all those. And, we are just always trying to grow each of those channels. So we'd just really like you to go on there and like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is. And
Whatever
we
it's
want you
called.
to do the, yeah, whatever it is for that. We want you to do the same thing for the Late Night Vision Show podcast. Look, we love doing this. It's a lot of work, but we like it. I mean, Hans and I are going to be talking at 11 o'clock at night. We might as well be recording it and putting it out there. But with that said, we want this show to grow. There's a lot of things we can do as the show grows. It helps us in a lot of different avenues. And so I've had people ask me. I mean, I get phone calls all the time from guys that listen to the show, and they say, man, we just love what you're doing, and what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? And there's two things, and the number one thing is to like the show on all the social medias and share it out there. Tell your friends about it. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Share our social media post. Look, we're not expecting to go share every single one of them and be annoying to your buddies, but seriously, that's the way that people find out about it. Is it's word of mouth. We're not advertising this thing in magazines. So like it, share it. That helps us. And the second way, and this is very self-serving, but it honestly, it's helping Hans and I both, is if it comes time to make that purchase, come do it through outdoorlegacygear.com. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be salesy and self-service, but seriously, that helps both of us when you do that. And we would love to do business with you.
Yeah, and I want to give. I'm glad you mentioned talking about social media. I want to give a couple shout outs to a couple people that always repost our stuff and are always
Mm,
telling people about the Late Night Vision Show, and that's over on Instagram. It's Hog Hunting Texas, and also
hmm
Tucker Conway. But
Yeah.
it seems like every time we have a show, they're reposting our stuff and letting people know about it. So we appreciate y'all too doing that and sharing that, and we'll continue to highlight some people that do that. But as far as with I've got a YouTube channel, Hans ETX. That's HANS ETX. This weekend, I'm actually releasing my full review of the Pulsar Helion XQ28. So it kind of times out perfect with the podcast and that video coming out. So you'll get to see a lot of image and video through it, and you get a chance to walk around the scope and see through it. And I'm excited about putting that out. You can find me on Instagram over at the same thing, HANSETX, Hans ETX. And like Jason said, we appreciate you listening. You can email us at the late night vision show at gmail.com and definitely call us. But for Jason and I, we're going to wrap this up. I promise that next week, Jason and I will both be in the same great state of Texas. I can't wait to get back. And it is killing me right now because my phone is blown up with pictures of hogs on cell camera and I can't go shoot them. It's killing me. And I feel like somebody's going to go shoot my hogs. But we thank y'all. Come back next week and we'll be checking y'all later. Thank you.